starts at the top, Newt. I mean, let's face it, we have all watched an incredibly emotional week, an emotional day yesterday when we got the news of the guilty verdict for the police officer Chauvin in the trial of George Floyd's death. And instead of coming out and having a neutral, fair tone while we all needed to be lifted up, you had President Biden and Vice President Harris yesterday trashing America, telling us we are systemic racists. Here is the two of them yesterday, right after the verdict was read, reacting to the verdict in the Chauvin trial. Watch this.
America has a long history of systemic racism. Black Americans, and black men in particular, have been treated throughout the course of our history as less than human. Here's the truth about racial injustice. It is not just a Black America problem or a people of color problem. It is a problem for every American.
Today, a jury in Minnesota found former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin guilty on all counts in the murder of George Floyd last May. And it ripped the blinders off for the whole world to see the systemic racism, profound fear and trauma, the pain, the exhaustion that Black and brown Americans experience every single day.
Newt, what's your reaction to this right after the verdict was read? And I should point out that we still haven't heard one word from Kamala Harris about the infants being thrown over the 18-foot wall at our southern border, and the dead people that have been found in the water, and this massive surge of illegals coming into America and being flown to their destination of choice.
Look, I think, first of all, they had a chance, Biden and Harris, to come out and say, unlike Russia, unlike China, unlike Cuba, unlike Venezuela, in America the justice system worked. And we had an open trial. People could watch the trial. We are a country which, in fact, upholds the Constitution and upholds the rule of law. They could have said that. It was actually a very pro-American moment that most of the planet, most of the planet looks at this system and marvels at the fact that we do pursue justice. But second, if I were the Chinese communist propagandist, I would just go on vacation and rerun for the entire planet the President and Vice President of the United States condemning America. I mean, this really does verge on a pathology, that they hate their own country so much that they give the world a totally false impression. We don't have a million people coming legally and another million people coming illegally because this is a systemically racist country. They're coming here for opportunity, for the rule of law, for security, for freedom. There's a lot of good things that the president could have said, none of which were within the vocabulary of his speechwriters, who are all basically America-hating left-wingers.
Yeah, it's a sad day. It really is. This is the leadership of the free world. And instead of saying just that, we had a trial. The members of the jury made their decision. This is how we govern. This is how America does it. They didn't say any of that. All they said was how systemically racist we are. And you're talking about the rule of law. Where is it with this attack on governing institutions? Larry Lindsay from the Lindsay Group writes, the judicial branch, the legislative branch, the executive branch, all being changed. The attacks on governing institutions, House Democrats pushing for legislation to expand the Supreme Court from 9 to 13. The House of Representatives also trying to get rid of the filibuster. In the executive branch, you're talking about unilateral executive actions in the first 100 days. At this point, Trump had issued 23 executive orders and revoked 12 prior orders. Biden has issued 39 executive orders and revoked 62 prior orders. What's going on, Newt? I mean, there is an attack on America's governing institutions.
Sure. I mean, it's pretty obvious what's going on. The people who won the election by hiding in the basement have now brought out all of their hard left friends who hate America, who desperately want to change America, who are very frightened that Kevin McCarthy is going to be Speaker after the next election, and they believe they're at a very short time horizon. They're trying to impose the rule of politicians instead of the rule of law. It is extraordinarily dangerous for this country. They're trying to impose, I mean, just take the whole concept. If we were, in fact, systemically racist, how did the system convict a white policeman? It's a repudiation of their entire worldview to look at that and realize the system worked. A jury, having sat through a trial in public on television, reached a decision which certainly does not fit any narrative of systemic racism. In fact, it's just the opposite. And it's a tragedy for America and, frankly, a tragedy for people around the world that we have a President Biden and a Vice President Harris so deeply committed to left-wing anti-American language that they can't use this uplifting moment to say justice was done, the system does work. Americans can be proud of the fact that, unlike what's happening, for example, in Russia, where the chief opponent to Putin is gradually being killed, unlike what's happening in China. I mean, Xi Jinping is not about to go and say, oh, why don't we have some fair, open trials on TV? And yet, they hold up a mirror. Biden and Harris hold up a mirror and decide, I hate me. It's really a pretty sad moment in American history.
Well, you just articulated why I was so upset after I heard those speeches yesterday. I thought, this is not a time for this now. And by the way, if we're so systemically racist, why did we elect a black man to be the leader of the free world and have him serve 2 terms? President Barack Obama. I mean, explain that to me if we're so racist. No, real quick. I mean, it's just extraordinary. Yeah.
Well, and Vice President Harris. I mean, it's a little bit much to have the #2 political figure in the United States explain that her election has no meaning, that Obama's election has no meaning. The fact is that this is a country that is open to opportunity. Do we have some remnants of racism? Sure. But compared to the problems of China or Russia or Cuba or Venezuela, I'd rather live in the United States every day of the week. And I'm very saddened to have a president who gives tools to our Chinese communist competitors. So all they've got to do is broadcast Biden around the world and Harris around the world. The Chinese communists don't have to do any work because Biden and Harris are doing it for them.
And no wonder we were schooled in Alaska. There you go, handing it to them on a silver platter. Newt, thanks very much. Great to see you this morning. We appreciate all of your insights always. Newt Gingrich. We'll be right back.